Well, hey there, Everett O'Keefe here, and you can see I have a very special guest with me, Kim Kenny Rockwall, and we're going to talk about her new book that is launching today. Before we get there, let me share with you that we here at Ignite Press love to help bring other people's messages to the world. So if you are writing a book or have thought about writing a book or have already written a book and you want to talk about how we can get that out to the world, just reach out to us at ignitepress.us. That is ignitepress.us. All right, fantastic. So Kim Kenny Rockwall is here, and she is the author of this new book, Unapologetic on Purpose, the Inside Out Approach to Impactful Leadership. And Kim, boy, you even are decked out with a brand appropriate shirt.
I am.
I love it. I think that's fantastic. You're actually the first author we've had that's done that, and I think it's cool. I think it's great. Um, Also speaks to the fact that your brand is unapologetic. I'm not referring to the word. I'm talking about the notion of being unapologetic. That it's okay to be brash and out there and bold, and to do things differently. And that's some things you talk about in your book. So, first, congratulations. You made it this
Thank you.
far.
Thank you.
Launch day is here. Now, Kim, not everybody out there knows you and has had a chance to get to meet you and get to know you like I have. So, why don't we start by just telling people who you are and what you're about?
Sure. Thanks, Everett. So, I've been an executive coach for about 20 years and an human resources practitioner for over 30, and really dove into the work of human resources and coaching. And this book was really a way for me to not only give back, but also help folks that didn't have a coach in their corner and giving them tools and exercises by using their own stories and reflections to get where they wanted to be as a leader, really from the inside out.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, uh, you have so many great stories in your book, and we're gonna get to those. But before we do, why don't you share with people? I know you wrote it because there are a lot of people out there who just don't have access um, to a consultant or a counselor of your caliber to help them along their journey. Who specifically did you write it for? Is there a is this a mid management? Is this for individuals? Is this for the C suite? Who'd you write it for, and who'd you have in mind?
Really all leaders, but specifically and especially for women leaders. Being a woman executive myself in four different industries, and some of those industries were very hard to break through sitting at that C suite table. So I share those stories, my own stories, to help others relate and figure out that, you know what, you need to silence those inner critics or those narratives that you need to rewrite and gain that confidence and be who you are, to color outside the lines and be bold. So, whether you're an emerging leader trying to break in or you're that seasoned executive, this book will help you figure that out and give you tools and resources and reflections along the way to do that.
Okay, wonderful. In fact, even in your prologue, I mean, you went right to it. You said women far too often struggle more with self worth, confidence, and granting themselves permission to lead. And so you really called it out right there, and that the book is especially for women, but not exclusively. And there's all the lessons that are here that you're sharing are appropriate for all. But it's great that you have a heart for women in these roles. Now, by the way, I'm noticing the chat. We're getting some questions in the and comments in the chat. And in the chat is Kathy Fayok, book coach extraordinaire, um, and and she asked a question. So I'm just going to go to it right now. Let me
Sure.
put this up on the screen. What should leaders think about when they pick a mentor or a coach?
Excellent. Thank you, Kathy. I think you need to go beyond just credentials. Credentials are important, but it's also experiences and life experiences. Pulling into that when you're selecting your coach. Do you fit with them? Are they going to get you the best version of yourself by asking pointed questions? I like to think that I push my clients outside the comfort zone and be able to support them along the way, not just tell them what they want to hear, really to be that reflection mirror to be able to get where they want to be by unpacking what's getting in their way with all the barriers along the way. So I think when you're picking your coach, you have to trust them and you have to make sure that it's someone that you can work with, that you're really, it's a lifelong process. Even though you might be hired for about 6 months, you really have to form a connection with that individual.
Yeah, as you were saying that, something came to mind. It's like a lot of times you can tell the caliber of the coach or consultant by the questions they ask. If they're asking the right questions, then you quickly determine that you may be the correct fit,
Exactly.
rather than right out of the gate, they're just telling.
Mhm.
Right? I
Right.
suppose there's that. Well, let's dive into your book. Um, your I've marked a couple areas that we could certainly talk about, um, but I want to lead off with, what is a story that you would like to share, or lessons that you would like to share from your book? You know, the things that you think are really critical for people to know on this journey.
Well, one of the lessons is the unapologetically confident in pink, and that was about having grit and a pop of color. So I was in an executive conversation, and he had said to me, "You know what? You'd be more successful if you wore less pink." And it really hit me hard. It wasn't really shaking my confidence, but I really wanted to understand why. So I unpacked that a little bit and I realized that I didn't fit his notion of what being an executive woman in human resources looked like. So I actually went home and I came back with, if I swear, if I could have dyed my hair pink, I would have. But I came back the next day with pink lipstick, pink outfit, pink shoes. And I said, I've got a news flash for you. I'm already successful. So I want women that have that, pressure in the manufacturing or other industries that might be male dominated. You know what? Be who you are. Don't try to be somebody else. And if you want to wear pink, go for it.
That's that's hilarious. I wish you had a picture. Wish we had a picture of you coming back the next day. But you probably didn't at that point think, "Hey, I'm creating content for a live cast." I'm sure sure that was the last thing on your mind. What did you get any pushback?
I did get pushback and I gave it right back because I realized, you know what? I don't need to pay attention and let you rent space in my head. And that's really what I heard my father's voice resonating in my head. You know what? You got to be who you are and be the best version of yourself. And if you don't like what I wear, then that's just too bad. Evaluate me for my results, not what color I wear.
Yeah, no kidding. Talk about majoring in the minors. I mean, for crying out loud, you
Right.
know. So here, let me do this. It would be foolish of me not to let people know that right now they can pick up Unapologetic on Purpose on Amazon today. It is available there, where the Kindle's actually on a special launch price of 99 cents. So please go ahead and pick up your copy today, paperback or Kindle. And I would also point out that this is a really great book to gift or share. I think that if you put this in the hand of a leader that you know, or someone that's preparing for a leadership role, that this is going to change their trajectory. It's going to change the way that they are looking at leadership, and also how they're interfacing with other leaders. I think it's very valuable. Now, you had this one story that stuck out to me, where in your book, I think it's chapter 9 or something like that, where you talk about the broom closet.
Mm,
Could you tell us your broom closet story?
sure. So, the executive team, they were building out spaces and offices. And being a vice president of human resources at the time, they put me in executive row. And I said, absolutely not, because after I've worked so hard to try to connect with the people at the most lowest level in the organization, I thought that would send a wrong message. So I said, you know what, I'm going to sit over here. And it was a closet with cabinets and, toiletries and all these different supplies. So I grabbed the facilities person. I said, let's make this into a closet. And what I recognized once people got over the fact that I was moving into a closet because it had an entrance closest to the cafeteria, I could really connect to the heartbeat of the organization. My peers, though, thought I was playing a reverse power play, but I really wanted to connect with the people so that they could trust me.
So you found a closet near the cafeteria and you asked them to make that into your office.
Yeah,
Okay, now I'm assuming you didn't leave the mops up
no.
and that type of thing. Okay, good.
Cabinets, yes. Mops, no.
Well, and I liked what you wrote in your book that you said that you found yourself being invited into water cooler conversations, here learning about what people's plans were for their weekends or their vacations. Um, you found yourself getting invited into conversations that normally they would want to hold HR out of,
Mhm.
um, and that you would never hear on executive row, right? No one's going to come out of
No.
your out of go all the way to executive row, wherever that was, to
Mhm.
say, "Hey, here's what I'm going to do on my vacation." What do you know, like, so it's
Right.
really
And,
wonderful.
when the problem resources, no one's going to walk the gauntlet of executive row. They're just not going to do that. So I figured if I could create a safer space, that they saw me having coffee and we talked about life events and I got to know their families, they would trust me with the harder issues and the harder conversations. It got to the point where they actually brought me gifts from their home country every time they would go on vacation. I have this beautiful embroidered photo and a kimono and cookies and all these different gifts just to say thank you. I see you.
I I I think that's wonderful, and I'm sure that the results bear out in longevity of employment. The metrics for worker satisfaction, all of those things must bear out because of these more, I don't know, hard, more immeasurable factors. I guess it must be. Now it's funny. You're unapologetic on purpose. Has It's a double entendre, because I realize that what you're saying is I'm unapologetic, and that's not by accident, right? But you have a chapter in your book, and this kind of points to it, and it says from people pleaser to purpose protector, and that's where I'm alluding to with this double entendre. Can you talk us through people pleaser to purpose protector, and how being unapologetic leads to that?
Mhm. When you're a people pleaser, that drains your energy. You need to really redefine what your yeses look like and say no, because many people overcommit and underdeliver, and that causes them to get to a stage of burnout. So protecting your time needs to be fierce. So I walk folks through the juggler's lens, I call it, keeping the glass balls in the air while letting the rubber balls, which are priorities, bounce and catch them up on the rebound, because you constantly need to reevaluate those priorities over time. And if you're constantly saying yes, your leadership style will get diluted. And so to protecting that time is important. In fact, if it's okay, can I read a chapter? I'd like to read a paragraph from that section. It's called
Absolutely.
The Gift of Boundaries.
Okay.
And management and leadership are wired to serve, but you can't pour from an empty cup. The most impactful professionals aren't the ones who do everything. They're the ones who do the necessary tasks with intention and energy. Boundaries don't limit your influence, they expand it. When you protect your time, energy, and well being, you create the space to serve others more powerfully and sustainably. And it's really about saying no isn't selfish, it's how to make room for your best yes. And that's what that chapter is about. That's one of my favorites as well.
I like that, making room for your best yes. Like that is a keeper right there, because the notion of being um, of what you said, of kind of protecting your own space, your identity, your energy, etc. If you are a people pleaser, like you said, it'll be watered down. Um, but also, you get pulled off target, right? You get pulled off target trying to please people instead of maintaining the purpose of your role,
It's
whatever that
exhausting.
might be.
It's exhausting to do that.
Yeah. So if your role in a company happens to be about profit, and you're getting pulled into things that really aren't about profit, then you're not fulfilling your role in the company, and you'll lose focus. If your purpose is to maintain productivity or um, culture or something, and you get pulled off topic because you're trying to please someone else, then
Mhm.
you are not fulfilling your purpose. And that's
Exactly.
where I was getting to with the double entendre about being unapologetic on purpose. It's unapologetic for a purpose.
For a
Uh,
purpose.
not just intentionally, but for a purpose.
Mhm.
And I think that's what really comes home to me. Comes home to me with your book. So, one of the things we didn't talk about is, what was your inspiration? Like, what pushed you over the edge to finally say, you know what, I'm going to write a book?
Mhm. When I went for executive coaching, they would always have us track our stories. And then that fueled into when I taught graduate students in an MBA program, but I would always share those leadership stories and lessons. And people would say, what would KKR do? And so, in doing that, I said, I really need to document and share this with others, because if I don't, it's a huge missed opportunity. So that fueled that passion. And really, it was my grandmother, who was actually in chapter one, called Great Inspiration. And then my father, who really I dedicated the book for. They taught me life lessons by modeling those leadership lessons. I didn't know it at the time, but after reflection, they really taught me so much. And it's really those colleagues and those clients over years that you learn from and you grow from. And I've included some of those stories in the book.
Now, the other thing I was going to say, you're I know that, if I can, give me just a second here, the as you worked through this process of writing the book, it's everyone talks about how hard it is to write a book, right? Um, but there's tools and people and all of those other things to help you on this, on the journey. Um, Describe, I think, for others, and people might benefit, what what your journey was like. Like, what was it for you to write this book and bring it to market?
I think the hardest part was figuring out when to stop. How much is enough? I didn't know when to finish. I have so many stories that I really couldn't fit in the book. So I made those resources, actual bonus resources. If you visit unapologeticonpurpose.com, you'll see that I couldn't fit about 15 pages of exercises in there. The process was excellent. It's just, I would suggest hiring either a book coach, and obviously Ignite Press. Kathy Fyack was one of my book coaches, and just using the resources and the expertise to be able to get where you need to be, because it's such a vast experience and you need to pare it down and focus.
Well, it's funny because I know when Kathy made the introduction for us, she was excited to make to make the introduction, and then you have been the best author client. Just have to tell you, you have been the best. We
Oh,
joke around here about giving our clients grades, and like A, B, C, hopefully no D's, that kind of a thing. You're an A plus.
Oh,
You're
thank
just an
you.
A plus, and
Thank
you've
you.
just
Thank
been
you.
delightful to work with. And I know that Kathy had the same experience in working with you through the journey. All right, so let me do this and remind people the book is available today on Amazon, where you can pick up the Kindle on a special launch price of 99 cents. The paperback is also there, and this bears asking. This cover is not like a normal cover that we have done in for many of our books, and I know this came about through the cover contest. What made you? What excited you when you saw this cover?
Because I believe that leadership starts from the inside out. This cover really reflected to me someone breaking through. They're breaking through, and the possibilities are in front of you. So stop shrinking, stop second guessing, and go. Start leading without permission, especially unapologetic on purpose.
That's terrific. Let me pull that down. So you're coming back here. Tell me about your plans going forward. You've been working very hard on the book, obviously. Tell us more about what you do and how you plan to move forward using the book as a tool to help change lives.
I want to work with all types of leaders. Like I said in your one of your questions, really the emerging leaders, mid leaders, and senior leaders. So I want to continue this work in different spaces. It could be a one-on-one, it could be group coaching, but I want to connect with people who have had barriers that are limiting themselves because of old tapes or old inner critic saying I can't, and I want to shift that thinking to I can and explore their possibilities and their potential. There is no greater gift other than being a parent, of course, than watching someone grow from one level to the next where they didn't think that they could believe in themselves, and now they're listened to and they have someone kind of coaching and pushing them from behind. So I'll continue this work because it gives me such great joy.
Boy, you mentioned parenting, and I suppose in some ways it feels like parenting, uh, with perhaps a little bit less uh, obligation. I'm trying to think of the right word. When you parent, you're not ultimately, well, you feel ultimately responsible for the outcome of how your kids turn out. Whether you should or shouldn't, you do, right? Um, and when you're coaching a business client, obviously that client's going to they're going to put into play what they choose to put into play. They're going to make those decisions because they're adults,
Mhm.
and many of them are powerful executives. They're used to making decisions, and they're used to hearing advice and choosing what things they're going to actually implement. So I suppose you must handle that a little bit differently than you would with your kids.
They've been coached. They don't want to be coached.
Yeah. Oh yeah, mom, come on. You've already told me that 12 times.
Yeah, but if you think about an executive, when they're promoted, it's often that they're really good at their skills. They often don't take that time to do the self-reflection work
Mhm.
to get to the next level and remove any obstacles from the development side. They're doing the work and getting results. The how is just as important as the what, and that's really what coaching is. It's working with them to not fix them, but to leverage their best strengths, and maybe they've never thought about it before. It's really great work.
Well, and you've got to love doing it, especially with all the experience you have behind you. I love the advice that you got to kind of not categorize, collect your stories. I wish that someone had told me that long ago, because you tend to forget the stories. You tend to forget the impact that you've had in other people's lives. More importantly, you may forget the story that serves as a lesson to somebody else. So the fact that you got that advice and you have incorporated many of these stories right here, makes sense. Is a perfect benefit to other people. Well, we've got a couple minutes left here, and Kim, is there anything that you would like to kind of say or get out there in the time that's remaining to us?
Yeah, I would say that the stories are within you. Document your stories and use those to pivot. So when you're faced with a challenge in the workplace, or you feel like you're being pushed down and you're not growing, use those as threads to thrive moving forward. Use this as fuel and really push down those fears, because I often find that fears get in the way. They're resistance. And once you name them, then you can move forward from there. And I think that this book has those activities, those reflections to help you start to move forward and thinking about that as you lead unapologetically.
Excellent. And if people would like to work with you or learn more about the book, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Well, certainly in my book, you can contact me, kimkennyrockwell.com. That's my coaching website. Also, the book itself, as I mentioned, I can't fit everything in here. So I created a site, which is the book name, Unapologetic on Purpose. And there's activities as well that you can get to, and you can always reach out and let me know how you're doing.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Kim, thank you again for your time, for your work, for being a model author and client. And just appreciate your positivity that it just oozes out of you. Oozes isn't the best word. It just flows out of you. And keep that up. Congratulations again
Thank you. And thank
on
you
your
to your
book.
team, Everett, yourself, Malia, and Zelda. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've had just a total blast working with you. So on that note, we will take us out. And again, everybody, pick up your copy of Unapologetic on Purpose. And if you happen to be someone who would like to change the world through a book, or someone who understands that a book may be the best possible thing for your business, please reach out to us at ignitepress.us. Ignitepress.us. Thank you. Take care.